Welcome back once again to the Pitlane Pals Formula One podcast. In this episode, we are going to be, not reviewing. It has not happened yet. We're not in the future. We're going to be previewing the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And this is one of those weekends, personally, where I'm happy that we have this and we get to talk about Formula One because personally, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix just holds a special place in my heart. I love this circuit. It looks beautiful to watch on TV. It's these cars at the pinnacle of what they can do. And on top of that, typically produces good racing and a good qualifying session. It's like the qualifying session of Monaco.
Yeah.
But like the racing of Silverstone.
It's a really good track. It's a really good track.
It's one of the only ones that they've added in the recent years that's actually like producing good racing.
Yeah.
Its first race was in 2021. And every year pretty much has been at least a decent race and definitely a great qualifying session. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's qualifying session. And we'll get into predictions a little bit shortly.
But I used to actually wait before we move on. I actually used to be a hater of this track. I remember at the exact time as this whole Jeddah plan was a thing and they started construction, and I just thought, oh my god, this track. It can't produce great racing. It's too tight. Ain't no way. It's not going to work out. And I mean, it literally produces some of the most legendary moments. I mean, that qualifying lap of Verstappen, I saw an edit of that today, and it's been, 3-4 years now?
Hits every time.
It hits every single time.
When you get that song in the background, what's that one song? Skyfall?
Yeah. And the commentator is going nuts. It's the best thing ever. It gives me chills. And the moment where there was, I don't think this has ever happened in any sort of F1 session ever before, and hopefully will never again. But the terrorist attack during the practice session, as you could see how there was like smoke coming up in the background.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's a political thing.
Insane to think about. Like, Jesus Christ.
That was probably a bad call from the FIA.
Yeah.
The FIA will run a session when there's terrorist attacks going on in the background, but not when there's too much rain on the ground. And they refuse. If the wet tires have to come out, they will not run the race. So, I don't know. But that's an FIA conversation. That's a political conversation. I'm not here for that. I'm here for racing.
Yes.
We're gonna try and do a little intro for anybody who may be watching their first season of Formula One, what you can expect from the circuit, and we kind of already talked a little bit about it. But one fun fact about the circuit is that it actually has the most corners out of any racetrack on the calendar. But half of those corners are basically just like quick side to side turns. They're not very.
This. Yeah.
A lot of them are corners because there's one really it's one of the circuits on the calendar where you're just kind of you have to constantly be locked in. You don't really get a minute to breathe. The only time you might get a second to breathe is kind of on that back stretch from corners like after the chicane from 17 to 22 right before that DRS zone ends is the only time where they can kind of breathe. But even then you're in a very high speed section. You are still having to turn that car because it's not a straight line. So it's a very technical circuit, and it's one of those circuits that really makes you appreciate what they do. It's wall to wall on the limit the whole time. There is 3 DRS zones, which is beautiful for us. Good racing. Which means I would say the main overtaking point, the best one, is typically the last corner into turn 27, because that's at the back end of 2 back-to-back DRS zones pretty much, and then they can hopefully get on that wide corner into the main straight. But you can also kind of overtake into turn 1. It's just a bit of a battle through that opening chicane that they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very technical circuit. I'm looking at a little thing of information here for me, and the safety car probability says 100%. So if you're into a little bit of safety car drama, this is definitely one of those tracks where you will get it.
For sure. I mean, you can't forget the thing about this track is not only it's so technical and it's so tough, but it's also such a hot race. I mean,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
in Jeddah. Like this is proper physical, and I mean it's one thing sending an F1 car around a very tight track, and it's another thing doing it at 30 degrees while completely sweating 2 or 3 or 4 kilos away. Like this is
Absolutely.
a really really tough track, and I'm actually interested how the rookies will perform, because I feel like so far we've been. I mean, we've had a blast with the rookies. Hadjar has been amazing. Antonelli has been absolutely insane.
Okay, a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back. So ignore the cut there. But one more little note I did want to make about the Saudi Arabian GP this weekend is that we have gone down to one softer tire compound range.
True.
So we're using the C5, C4s, and C3s this weekend, which is a step down. It's not the softest because they have C6s, but they don't use the C6s. So if they're not going to use them here, I don't know where they're going to use them. But yeah, no, I'm personally a big fan of that decision because I'm always for the softer tire compounds, which promotes more pit stops and more drama.
Yeah.
And a little bit too much. Sometimes these Pirelli tires have gotten so like durable that we get kind of boring races because it's only a one stop and nothing happens. So
yes, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I feel like for a bit they were in a lot of trouble because of the punctures. So
true.
So now that they've fixed that problem, we obviously pay the price by having less pit stops, which, I mean, it's like the best example is quite literally going from Japan to Bahrain. Like there were way more pit stops in Bahrain, and in Japan it was just like one stop. I think at max it was a 2-stop.
One stop just typically does not make for great racing. Everyone spends the whole race conserving their tires, so that's like the one thing that's like kind of it's not. It doesn't promote any aggressiveness because nobody's on fresh rubber at any point besides the one stop. But then even then they got to bring those tires to the end of the race, and so it just doesn't really ever promote great racing. I think 2-stop is like the perfect sweet spot.
For sure.
I don't know what we haven't seen really many predictions on like what they're gonna do this weekend regarding pit stops, but I'm in favor of the softer tire compounds.
Yep.
So, free practice 1 was topped by the Frenchman Pierre Gasly. Surprisingly, that was weird. That was strange
at all.
And I did not expect it because it's an Alpine car that we usually say struggles in the straights because of the Renault power unit.
Yeah.
So where is he getting the speed? Like it just felt weird. I don't remember who it was in my commentating that was talking about this, but just that the Alpine car does look very well built if it wasn't for its engine being so slow.
Yeah.
But this is a track where you think its engine would matter quite a bit, and it seemed to have defied it in practice 1 and in practice 2 as well. I mean, he was still in the top 10, so it could be a good weekend for Alpine. Or it's just Pierre Gasly.
It's weird because at the same time, I saw multiple posts on this, and I swear at the beginning of the season I saw the same thing. They're using last year's chassis.
This
chassis is 1 year old. Like this, realistically, against the teams Alpine's competing against, at least in Friday practice, that car should not be on the top step.
Yeah,
they have a terrible engine. The chassis is from last year, and then you've got Red Bull, you've got Mercedes, you've got McLaren, who were beaten by Pierre Gasly with that tractor of a car. So,
yeah,
I mean,
what's strange too is like in Bahrain and Japan, what we saw through those kind of high speed, medium speed S sections that both of those tracks have, Suzuka in Sector 1 and Bahrain, I believe, in Sector 2, is that Alpine was very quick through those sections, and so their aerodynamics are pretty good. It's a very well-built car given the resources they have. I am very curious to see what they can do in the new regulations when the new engine comes in. If they can just get rid of the Renault engine, which is what they're doing. They're going to Mercedes in 2026. We
Thank
could see
God.
some promising results. I know Pierre Gasly probably just dreams about that at night. He's like, oh Lord, bless me with the Mercedes engine, please. Like he just sits there. But it was interesting to see him top FP1, and I do hope to see another good result from him, and maybe Doohan can get his first points this weekend. We'll have to see.
I think I actually saw a post on Doohan now being kept in the seat for the rest of the year. I believe this is. I did not check the source, so I'm not sure if this is true. But it would make sense because he had a great outing last time, in Bahrain, and he showed some promising pace. He got messed up by the safety car, but I mean, I guess for now he's kind of silenced down the critics for a bit. Jeddah's going to be interesting. It will be important for him to score points, especially now if Gasly's doing so well in practice one, at least. He needs to be behind him. He needs to be close to him. He needs to, if Gasly's getting P5 upwards or something, he needs to at least be in the points, 100%.
As the year goes on, that's definitely what I want to see from him. I will say Jeddah is a very tricky circuit, and we did see in both sessions the rookies were struggling a little bit. Everybody from Hadjar had a rough outing in both FP1 and FP2. Granted, I will say in FP1, the Racing Bulls didn't really run much because they were fixing their rear wing or changing a setup, I believe, for most of the pre-practice 1 session. But even then, Hadjar didn't have a great outing in FP2. Lawson didn't look spectacular. I mean, he had a decent lap time in FP1, I believe, but again, Bortoleto didn't even go out for FP2, but in FP1 did not look very quick. So just I will cut any of the rookies some slack this weekend. Even Antonelli didn't look that great. I will point out that the commentators were talking a bit about how Antonelli's driving style on this circuit is it stands out quite a bit because he's very much a driver who gets all of the track. And here you can't do that quite as much because it's wall to wall, but it looks like Antonelli is literally rubbing the wall every single corner. Like he is just the way he drives. And it's what we've seen from some of the younger guys too, who play more video games is what I've noticed is they all take that. They really use all of the track. A lot of more simulator time as we've gotten into this new era of drivers who have grown up with a lot more technology and being able to, do it that way. The driving style has changed with it, which I guess I at least what I've noticed is just a lot more track usage. Absolutely, from the apex to the wall is what Antonelli is doing, and it always looks very quick. And then he crossed the line a couple times in practice sessions where I was like, oh, you are like P11 or whatever. But I mean, it's just it's a hard track to learn as a rookie, but so I would cut him some slack this weekend. But yeah, as we get further into some more accessible circuits, I'd like to see Doohan keep up with Gasly a little bit more.
Yeah, he is 1 second behind. Just looking at the timing screens of the best lap. Not 1 second, but 8/10. It's quite a margin. Behrman did beat Ocon. In practice two. Yeah, and Lawson. I mean, Lawson's not doing too great, but Lawson's at least somewhat close. I mean, within a 10th to Hadjar. So,
but that's what I'm saying is both of those guys are not doing anything spectacular in the Racing Bull this weekend. True. They're both rookies. So
yeah.
I mean, I guess they're both full season rookies. Lawson's kind of a rookie, kind of not. But where do we draw the line on that? We don't know. Hulkenberg looked decent for some reason. That was weird. In both sessions, he had put pretty good lap times in. He was P9 in practice 2, and in practice 1, he was P12. While Bortoleto was significantly struggling in the Sauber this weekend. So that was interesting to see from Hulk. Just he kind of shows up every once in a while. But I do want to talk about some of the close gaps between teammates rather than the big ones. Piastri and Norris have been neck and neck all week, or through both practice sessions. We've seen Norris barely edge out for Piastri in free practice 1, and then in free practice 2 did it again. But Piastri was supposed to put it in the second lap and did not. He tried to change a setup and then I believe hit the wall on his second outing in FP2. So there's a bit of it'll definitely be tight. It'll definitely be tight in qualifying this weekend. The Red Bulls. Verstappen's been complaining both practice sessions, as he does. and then will somehow pull out pole position in qualifying and then win the race. But he's been complaining quite a bit, saying he has no grip. And I will say in free practice 1, Tsunoda was basically put in an equal time to Verstappen, pretty much. They both put pretty much at the same time in free practice 1. Free practice 2, there was a bit of a bigger gap because of Verstappen's second qualifying lap. I believe he pulled out a significant amount of more time. But they were P3 and P6, and it was looking okay.
Yeah.
Until Tsunoda binned it on the final corner, which is basically put an end to FP2.
Terrible track to have no grip.
Yeah, well, Tsunoda, it kind of looked his fault a little, but it almost looked like, and this, at least on TV, it looked like he didn't expect to have the grip he had, and turned the car too much in, and then turned into, in the final corner, he hit that little, he hit the wall next to the apex. And then that just sent him into the out wall. It looked like he kind of did the turn in 2 parts and like just didn't think that he was going to get as much grip as he did. Like, so he didn't expect the car to turn.
Yeah, he was expecting understeer and then just actually gripped
and then
up.
just and then actually just went into the wall. So that was a bit interesting. And it's unfortunate because we're trying to make sure that, you know, Tsunoda keeps his confidence, and he's had a great weekend. He's coming off his first points in the Red Bull, and then for him to go bin it in the final corner. Going into qualifying tomorrow, you just need to regain that confidence in free practice 3. But yeah,
I mean it's gonna be tough for him for sure. I mean, he knows eyes are on him, but he's dealing really well with the pressure. I'm very much pleased with how he has been doing, especially against Verstappen. I mean, the others drown, and having a worse outing or having a bad practice session definitely took a toll on Lawson more than it does on Tsunoda. I mean, he's been F1 for a while. He knows this is not an outing where they're going to be swapping him for someone else. He knows he's got no one breathing down his neck, no one performing in the other team better than he should be performing. Taking Hadjar over him or something like that it's wild. They wouldn't do that. So I think it's a surrounding that he's familiar with. He obviously knows the Red Bull guys, being an RB for so long, and he's definitely starting to show that he was the right call, and he should have been the right call from the get go. And I hope he sticks with it. I hope he's able to find even more pace from the RB from the Red Bull. He has made a statement that he believes if he were to find more pace, he thinks he can beat Verstappen. I want to
pull out.
I would say that is a very, very questionable statement.
I came prepared.
And I know you came prepared.
I came prepared.
We had a little discussion before this, because I sent Caden the post about Tsunoda's statement about being able to beat Verstappen if he finds pace, and I was like, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You've just come into the team, and I mean,
I think the full quote is important.
All right. Then I didn't hear the full quote. I didn't hear the full quote.
I think because I had a feeling. Now I don't really care. A little confidence don't hurt nobody, in my opinion.
It's
a competitive sport. I think these drivers need to be egotistical and think they are the best on the road to be the best on the road that they can be.
Sure.
But I do think you will take it back a little bit based on the rest of the quote here. Okay. So the full quote was, "I'm trying to use that, and I know that if I unlocked that area, I would be able to probably beat him." Verstappen is who he's referring to. But then he says, "I know myself that I can't beat him straight away, so I'm just trying to build a good baseline and wait for the moment that I can be in the shape." Yeah. So I think that's important because you said just to go straight into the team and start throwing that out there. He's just saying, he even discloses right after that he knows he can't beat him straight away. He's just saying that obviously he's not going to go into the team, or somebody's going to ask him a question about it. He's not going to go, "Oh, I can never beat Verstappen." You know what I mean? He's got to have a little confidence in himself. He's just saying, I think I need to get my footing. And he goes on later in the article to state that it's the first time he's driving in a different team's car. So he's still trying to learn the car a little bit and get comfortable with it. But he thinks that he can just find a little bit of power and maybe compete with Verstappen. I don't think that's necessarily the craziest statement ever.
I'll step it back. You're right. Now having heard the full quote, that's true. That's true.
He said, "I know myself that I can't beat him straight away." That's an important quote that they do not include in the headline.
It's the point of the headline, taking out what's most interesting. So it definitely tainted it in the wrong way. So I do apologize, Yuki, if you are seeing this. I will take everything back that I've said.
Yes, of course. Yuki Tsunoda is listening to the Pitlane Pals Formula One podcast.
You're still Yuki Pookie to me. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, no. I mean, do I think Yuki Tsunoda would ever beat Verstappen over the course of a season? No, of course not. But I don't. It's like when people were critiquing Lando Norris for saying that, oh, he'd like Max to come try the car. Now, I do get the one argument, which is maybe don't shit on the car that is, helping you win races, that your mechanics and everyone back at the factory put a lot of time into. I do get that argument. But if we're talking about Lando being cocky or something, or trying to say that Max would struggle in the car, that he's, and it's not that great of a car, whatever, you got to have a little faith in yourself. He's not just going to let Max go out there and say, oh yeah, I would dominate in your car. And basically saying that he's much better. Do I think Max Verstappen's a better driver than Lando Norris? Absolutely. Do I think there's anything wrong with Lando Norris being like, hey, I think I'm pretty good, you come try the car? No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They're a competitive. I like a little drama. We need a little competition.
Same. It's just, if Lando would have gone and said, yeah, no issue, I would have definitely beat you in the same machinery, that would then kind of been similar to the cutout from Tsunoda, which was not the full quote, which we've now learned. But I feel like shitting on Lando has become a trend. It's like it's such a trend, and I see so many videos about how people miss the old Lando, and how people miss the guy who was all silly and goofy, and or like still not too mature, and he's changed too much now. And there was this video about Seb talking about the situation with Lando, and it's something I agree with. You can't forget, like, he's been criticizing himself for a while now, and it's just something that makes him human. It's something almost everybody does. And some people tend to cope with it in a different way, especially like Max or probably even Piastri, in a way where you wouldn't even notice that they're criticizing themselves. Lando is just someone who takes it head on first, and if someone fucked up, it's himself. And oftentimes in the races, it will not seem like that. Like, there'll be situations where he's instantly saying, what the hell is that guy doing? Even though he's in the wrong. But a lot of people are doing that in the race. And
yeah, I don't view Lando's self-deprecation as a flaw against his character. No. I don't look at it as like I hate Lando because he says these things, whatever.
It's not him being weak. Some people say it's Lando being weak. It's not being championship mentality.
Well, what I was gonna say though, where I was gonna go with that was, I do think in order to be a world champion, I do need to see a bit more confidence from him. I'm not saying that he can't be vulnerable with how he's feeling about his, personal performances. Obviously, he's very hard on himself. Yeah. But I do think what maybe makes the difference in some of these races between Piastri and Norris is that Piastri's got this cool head, and he's just driving, and he's definitely seems a bit more confident in himself. He's cool, he's calm, collected. And Norris is a bit more emotional, and it seems that what we see through quotes probably doesn't even fully represent his own critique of himself. And I just think in order to be world champion, you need to convince yourself that you can be world champion. And I was actually listening to Gunther Steiner on a podcast talking about this, but just the concept that, again, if you don't believe you're going to be world champion, how are you going to be world champion? And so we saw a lot of, I would like to see a bit of just a shift in mentality sometimes. I think, how do I say this? It's a bit easier said than done, but I do think he spent the off season doing this whole, I learned a lot, right? And I'm not gonna make the same mistakes I made last year. I know what it's like to fight for a championship now. I've got it in the bag. But out the gate, we're kind of seeing a lot of the same behavior from last year, in these first 4 rounds. Outside of, you looked very composed in Australia. Since then, you know.
Yeah, he's kind of fallen back into it again.
Yeah, and so I just think maybe one of the steps in that direction would be a bit more confident. Bring a bit more. Just go out there, drive. But I'm not. It's not. That doesn't make me dislike Norris like it does for a lot of people, where it's this like critique of his character.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think I would like to see Lando Norris be world champion. I think to do that, there needs to be a bit more self confidence that he can do it, and a little less of this like, just be a bit more aggressive. Yeah, get a bit more confidence in your ability, because you are a quick driver. So that's kind of the thing.
Yeah. No, I get that. I do. It's just, I also saw like a clip from a different podcast where he actually kind of explained that side of his character and that side of his personality, as how he's kind of managed with that kind of pressure throughout his career, and how he gets the most out of himself by putting the blame on himself. And
yeah.
For me personally, it wouldn't work. And I think for a lot of people it wouldn't work, because if you put yourself under that much pressure, you're just bound to fail more in a way. But I mean, I guess he's kind of found his way with it, and I'm sure he's worked a lot on this, and I'm sure it's something where he set himself to be more experienced and take the experience he had from last year more into account and change up. But I think when he's then in the situation again and things aren't going his way, it's really, really easy for him to slip back. So you just have to hope that it stays to a degree to where it's getting better, and where he starts to find confidence again in that car, because Max Futrell talked about this, saying that Lando's just not confident in the car right now the way it is. And that's not trying to say that the car is terrible and that the car is not able to win any races. It is. But currently, he doesn't have a lot of confidence with the way it's feeling. And regardless...
And as we know, that can make a big difference.
Exactly. The car can be as great as it is, but if you're not feeling great in the car, you can't extract the performance out of it.
Well, that's even what the Red Bull's at right now.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not that the Red Bull is anywhere near the speed of the McLaren or anything, but it should be better than it is. But it's just on a knife's edge, and it's very difficult to drive. Even for Max, it's very difficult to drive. So, but yeah, no, I think it's going to be an interesting championship battle, but that's just kind of where I think, Lando needs to take the next step to get on the same level as Piastri, because Piastri right now, anytime like we talked about this last time, anytime he comes to the radio, it's the same emotion. He seems very cool, calm, and collected, and he's quick right now.
Yeah.
And he's just absolutely on it. And if Norris does not catch it soon, this championship battle might sway in that direction. And we may have not considered that happening. We've talked a lot about in the offseason what Hamilton could do with Ferrari. Is Norris going to be able to pull it off this year? And obviously Piastri's name was circulated a little bit, but I don't think a lot of people genuinely considered him beating Norris this year for a championship, and that could become a very real possibility if
True.
Norris does not catch the momentum soon. Speaking about Ferrari, they look a little rough. Leclerc was okay in FP2, but Hamilton was all the way down in P13 in FP2. I think
good.
We've seen a couple comments from Hamilton in the press that he's just not comfortable in the car. There's some other issues probably behind the scenes. It's just, I feel like I'm not surprised that this is the way it's going, though. Like, I'm not a hater. I like Lewis, and I think it would have been cool to see some success with Ferrari. But I just didn't buy that he was going to come into Ferrari and it was going to be this magical story.
Yeah, no.
It's been rough, and it's a little rougher than I actually thought it was going to be. It's been difficult.
I think, a part of me was like, not like naive in a way, but of course, almost everyone but Verstappen fans would have loved to see Hamilton succeed in that Ferrari. It would have been like a fairy tale. It would have been perfect. And Hamilton is an incredible driver, generational talent, no question. But coming from one team where you've been for years, you've got 8 world championships, 8 constructors, and 7 drivers, going to a completely new team with a completely different car, with completely different issues, it would be really, really, really a chance of 1 in a million for this to be working out instantly. Like there's just no way. And especially with a team like Ferrari, where we oftentimes hear over the radio that there's some problematic situations going on, and hearing that behind the scenes, Leclerc is going into a completely different direction than Hamilton when it comes to car setups is worrying. And I don't think it's going to be getting, I mean, I might be wrong here. I hope I'm wrong at the end of the day, but I can't see it getting getting better anytime soon. Maybe when the new regulations come in, maybe he's then able to kind of catch some ground when it's new for everybody. But just, I feel like for now, I can't see it happening. And I mean, Hamilton's not the youngest anymore. I don't know how many years he's got left in him. So we'll have to see.
I think a lot of how many years he has left will come down to how well that Ferrari looks in the new regulations.
I think so too.
Yeah, but I want to see Hamilton get some cool results. I mean, we had the sprint win, but there is some similar issues as well. It's not just Hamilton. There is some crossover. Leclerc and Hamilton have similar complaints in the long runs with the Ferrari. And it seems that they're struggling in similar areas when it actually comes to the races. Mm-hmm. But I just think that's such a dramatic shift for Lewis to come into right now. In a car that is having more issues, I think, than he expected. Mm-hmm. And that transition, Leclerc is used to the car. He's used to a Ferrari power unit. Hamilton isn't. And those things just make a bigger difference than we sometimes think about as fans. Yeah. So I don't know where I see Hamilton finishing this year, but I'd like to see some steps in the right direction before. Again, it's only round 5 right now, but we keep saying it's only this, and we're seeing similar trends every race weekend. Every time we say that about something, so we'll have to see. I guess we can probably get into a couple race predictions here.
Do you have yours written down already? Are you prepared?
I've got them.
Oh my.
I was thinking earlier.
All right. Okay.
I think it'll be necessary, and I think it'll be, what's the word I'm looking for? Proven that Lando Norris has what it takes to keep this championship battle in his favor for another weekend. And Lando Norris will win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Okay.
We'll see, but he has looked a little better than Piastri. He looks very confident on this track this weekend. So I'm getting that. I'm feeling it in the right direction for sure. My second race prediction is that I will say, you know what? Both Red Bulls will finish within the top 8.
Okay.
Verstappen looks a little quicker this weekend than last weekend, and Tsunoda has been, outside of the incident in FP2, he's been right on his tail, and then did finish P6 and P3 for the Red Bulls, I think, in FP2. That's a good sign to me. They will both finish within the top 8. And my final race prediction, we were talking about how well Nico Hülkenberg did in practice. I think Nico Hülkenberg will score at least 1 point this weekend in Jeddah. That'll be my final race prediction. That one's my kind of shot. I always like having two kind of reasonable, and then I like having a little shot out there. Nico Hülkenberg is going to bring home points in the Kick Sauber in Jeddah this weekend.
Okay. So my first prediction is going to be that both Williams will be scoring points this race. They've been looking pretty strong in the practice session.
True.
Both of them. And I feel like this is going to be a track where having the experience is going to be helping you out a lot, and having the confidence. And I feel like Sainz and Albon have been looking pretty good. I'm gonna leave my interesting one for last. Second, I think Lewis Hamilton will finish outside the points tomorrow. Sorry, not even tomorrow. In 2 days, on Sunday.
2 days.
Jesus.
2 days.
Jesus.
2 days.
He hasn't been looking too great He's been struggling with the car. Terrible track to be struggling with the car. It's if you don't have confidence in Jeddah, it's not going to be looking
your
great.
weekend.
It's gonna ruin your weekend. And lastly, since there's 100% safety car chance, I will say that. Do I do 2 or do I do 3? Okay. I think 2 of our rookies are not going to be finishing this race.
Ooh, the 2 of any of the rookies.
I'm not saying who. I'm not saying who. I'm just saying 2.
And that includes Liam Lawson.
Rookies. Yes, Liam Lawson's included. Okay. 2 rookies will not finish this race. If that's a disqualification, if that's a crash, if that's something else, if they send it into the safety car, I don't know, whatever they do, they're not going to finish. That's my prediction.
All right, 100% safety car chance, and I think that one of them at least is bound to come from a rookie for sure. Okay,
I think even 2.
Well,
I can see it happening. For sure.
Hey! I think 2 is a good one because I think it doesn't make it like locked in, but I think
exactly.
It'll be, if you get that right, that's gonna be. If you get that right, I'll be impressed. All right, so. Thank you all for listening to this episode of the Pitlane Pals Formula One podcast. We'll be back in a few days with the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix review and a little bit of. We'll have a week off, so we have a little bit of probably news hopefully to talk about before. But it's been a busy. We're finally almost done with this triple header. We're almost done. We've been busy bees over here. No, it's all part of the fun. But anyways, thank you all for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, all the places. And thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.